6.
Thanks for watching. Hope to see you back here on the News at 4. Chicago Live is next.
Next stop, Sherry.
Chicago Live. It's Wednesday. We are halfway through the work week. Plenty to talk about today between the hours of 1 and 4 p.m. So I'm your host, Anita Blanton, and I will be with you through 4 p.m. Let's give you a little bit of a preview of what we've lined up for this first hour that we have here together. Lake County Sheriff Deputy Chief Chris Cavelli is going to be joining me again. We've had him here before to talk about some of the great things that they are doing there in Lake County. So their internet crimes against children team, and I don't know if this is, I mean, there's some positive, some negative here to this overall, but they have some pretty stunning new data looking back on their work in 2025. Obviously, again, both good and bad. The purpose of what they're doing, not good, but the fact that they're able to rescue 5 children and make 13 arrests with this specific group, this specific team, is actually a wonderful thing, right? So we're going to talk all about it with him coming up a little bit later on in this hour. Also, former Illinois Governor Pat Quinn is kicking off an online petition. It's a drive to give Illinois Bears fans, I know it's Chicago Bears, but you know where I'm going here, Illinois Bears fans, an opportunity to band together to tell the Bears they need to keep it in Illinois, keep the team here. He'll be holding a press conference right around 1:30, and so we hope to be able to take that live just as soon as it begins. But right around that time, I'm also anticipating a conversation with Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth. This is about last night's State of the Union address from the president. Now, if you really think about the room last night, there are so many different storylines. And I pretty much said this before I left you yesterday at 4 o'clock, that you could look for many different storylines, whether it was through the buttons that people were wearing, the people who were missing from being there. There was a boycott for many Democrats. I think there were like 60 Democrats who boycotted being in the room. But then of those who were there, there was Representative Al Green from Texas, who within moments of the speech beginning was escorted out as he was holding up a sign that was about the recent video that President Trump posted on his social media site Truth Social that depicted the Obamas as apes. He was holding up a sign in protest of that. There were also representatives who were heckling the president, really didn't have Representative Ilhan Omar, for instance, being on my bingo card for kind of taking up the mantle that Representative Green left behind. And so there are so many different things, even from that side of things. There was looking out at the justices and thinking about, well, these are the justices that just brought down a monumental decision last Friday to President Trump's economic agenda, and he railed against them on Friday. But, in the days since then, he's instituted new tariffs. In fact, there was a 10% tariff that went into effect on Tuesday. So, you wondered, how was he going to address them? Would he address them? Would he even shake their hands? Who would show up? And 4 of them did show up. Chief Justice Roberts was there. Also, Justice Kagan was there. Amy Coney Barrett was there. Justice Barrett was there. So there were several of them who were there in attendance, but you just wondered, okay, when he has the opportunity to go down the aisle and take a left or a right, if they're sitting to the left, will he go in that direction? That is the typical direction that a president would take to get up to the podium. Would he take that direction, or would he choose to go the other way? And he went by and he shook each one of their hands. You specifically looked especially at his interaction with Justice Coney Barrett, because that is a justice, along with Neil Gorsuch, who was not there, who he appointed, who didn't side with him in this particular decision, saying that the Emergency Powers Act wasn't actually a legal route for the president to enact these tariffs, that he was trying to enact this over the last year. And so, looking at that, you kind of wondered, okay, what's that like? Is it going to be icy? Will it be warm? What is that going to be like? So he did go by. He did shake her hand. It seemed okay, if you will. I mean, not overly warm, but it's typically not overly warm. So it actually happened. I guess that was progress, given the fact that he said that she was an embarrassment to her family. You looked at who was in the room in terms of guests. The U.S. men's hockey team was there, and that was a moment of unified national unity, where you look up and you see these players who have gone overseas to play on behalf of our country as a whole. So that was a moment where everyone could stand and cheer for them. The president made some remarks about the fact that he didn't see all of the Democrats standing for that moment. There was also the young man, the Coast Guardsman, who rescued so many of the young girls and camp counselors. They are down in Texas over the last summer when waters rose so quickly, and so many of them had their young lives cut short on that day. But this particular Coast Guardsman was able to rescue so many in just a horrible situation that took place. He was a hero in the midst of that, and he was awarded an additional medal because of his heroism on that day. So it was great to see him there. But there were also people who were brought by some of the Democrats. There were several of them who brought Epstein survivors. Right here, when we had our broadcast yesterday and we were seeing some of the live pictures that were happening ahead of the State of the Union last night, one of them was a press conference for the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender. And, they wanted to make sure that even if they were maybe not on the president's role for his speech, that they would still be top of mind for many people. And so there were Democrats who brought them last night to be their guests. There were also guests who were survivors of the brutality in many instances brought on by federal agents during ramped up immigration efforts. So there were so many different storylines that we were watching. Again, that was for the State of the Union. You can see I have an additional chair here, though, and our own political reporter, Paris Schutz, is joining me now. Scoot on in, brother. Scoot on in.
Sorry, the boss stopped me on the way up.
It's okay.
Had to chat for a bit.
It's okay.
Sorry.
I was talking about the State of the Union. So before we get to your debates for tonight, what were your thoughts on the State of the Union address last night?
My initial thoughts were I feel like it was a missed opportunity for President Trump because Republicans have talked about, they know that it doesn't look good for them in the midterms. Trump's approval has started to tank. There's a lot of Republicans that said, hey, he hasn't kept his promises. Why are we doing this escapade in Venezuela? Why are we about to go to war in Iran? What about costs? I don't feel better about the cost of goods and the cost of living right now, even though he tried to say that there was. So I think President Trump kind of reverted to his bombast, his everything's the greatest ever.
So much winning.
No one's ever seen this before. And I think that plays really well with his base, which, what is it, 35% base here? That's always pretty rock solid. But when you talk about reaching independent voters, there needed to be a clearer roadmap of this is what's going to happen in the next year to turn things around. I'm going to do this initiative, that initiative. I mean, he talked about prescription drugs, he talked about
the
savings
Trump
accounts, the Trump accounts. But what about folks that are still struggling to afford their home payments, their utility bills? They don't feel like they're getting ahead in their careers and their jobs. They're worried about AI. There wasn't a lot in there about, like, here's how we change course over the next year, and here's how we get some of those independent voters back, which have really, really gone away from him. Yeah,
it seemed like it was one of those speeches that just dug everybody further into where they already are.
It did. It was very divisive, too, and I think one of the points was to cast them. I mean, if we talk about this as a midterm strategy, it was to cast Democrats as villains. It wasn't to reach out to the middle of the country.
Yeah.
And so to say Democrats, look, they're not standing when we say our job is to protect citizens over illegals, they're going to spin that into a campaign ad, obviously. And clearly he purposely put them in a trick box to put that in there.
Yeah.
But what does that do for your trouble with independent voters who are not happy with what Republicans have done right now, that not much has changed on inflation, not much has changed on costs of living. Sure, the stock market keeps setting records, but it always sets records because it's always been going up. It set records under the last president, in Trump's first term, in Obama's term. So I don't think these things, political consultants will tell you these are not how you're going to get middle of the road. So it was a speech to his base at a time when he needs to start thinking about broadening that if Republicans are going to have a chance in the midterms. This was a lot of the old grievances and a lot of the old kind of his go-tos.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he does.
It's what he does best.
This is his bag of tricks.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and so when you think of midterms, obviously November is what he's looking for, but you have to go through primaries before you even get there.
Yeah.
And you've been going through a series of debates over the last week or so. Let's start with what's happening tonight. Who's debating tonight on Chicago Reports?
Tonight's going to be an interesting one. We've got the candidates for 9th Congressional District. A new poll just came out. Now, this is the north side of Chicago and Evanston, so some of the north suburbs as well. Very contested. It's a high percentage of Jewish population, and so the issue of Israel and Palestine has been really hot. And AIPAC, that the interest group, the Israel-backed American spending group has become so controversial.
It's become a part of a lot of the ads.
It's become a lot of part of the ads. It's become toxic in some circles. Governor Pritzker say they're a Republican organization now because what they want is lawmakers that support Israel. And so that is playing into this race very deeply when you've got 3 top-tier candidates that all agree they don't like Trump, they don't like ICE, but they differ. So if they're so similar, how come there's so much money being tossed around in this race? And it's over that. Who's going to be the most pro-Israel? I think we know that Laura Fine is a person that has a PAC associated with her has taken money from AIPAC reportedly, and Biss is kind of somewhere in the middle, and then you've got Kat Abou-Ghazala, who is much more progressive and has been at pro-Palestine rallies.
Right.
So this is where I anticipate there will be lots of contention, and I think it's we're doing one congressional race, but I think this is a bellwether for where the Democratic Party is going to go.
Trying to kind of find its
bearing.
Yeah, its identity.
Its identity. Are you going to be like we know that all Democrats are unified in their disdain for Trump and their worry about democracy, but is the party going to be more center-left? Which I think Laura Fine has kind of taken that role, even though they'd all call themselves progressive. Or is it going to go the way of AOC, which I think Kat Abou-Ghazala...
Well, she's an activist.
She's an activist,
right. Yeah,
right.
yeah. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens tonight. Again, that begins at 6, correct?
6 to 7 tonight. And we're going to have an undercard, too, so there's so many candidates in that race. And some of the, there's top 3, a clear top 3 in the polling. A poll just came out today. But we're going to have the second 3 as well, who are polling somewhere around 5%. And look, we want to be fair to everybody. Anything's possible. We just can't get everybody in. And some of them did complain to us, when we only had the 3 booked. And when we listened, we said, you know what, you're right. And we want to be fair to everybody. Everyone deserves a shot, and so we can't. We have a limited bandwidth here, and so we're going to do our best to get everybody in there.
You're going to do your best on getting everyone in. You've also been taking some of the questions from viewers as well.
We've got great viewer questions, just fantastic.
Yeah, and then just quickly here, before we get to our next interview, I'd like you to kind of recap last night.
Okay. The 3 of the 4 GOP candidates for governor who want to take on J.B. Pritzker, Darren Bailey, who consensus seems to be a front runner. I don't know what the polling really says at this point or whether you can rely on it. He did not show up, but the 3 others did, and I thought it was a really fascinating policy debate. Ted Dabrowski, James Mendrick, who is the sheriff of DuPage, and Rick Heidner, who's been a longtime business owner and lobbyist who's given most of his money to Democrats. So there, you could imagine there was a lot to dig into. But I think we got into a lot of issues about like the Safety Act and sanctuary laws and ICE and tax rates. You know, everyone complains about how property taxes are so high here. What are they going to do? So at the very least, even if these three candidates don't stand a great chance, I think we opened up some discussion and some points of view on a lot of state issues that are valuable to have. It's good to have these conversations.
And one of the reasons why maybe they don't have as high of a profile of, say, a Darren Bailey, who did not come to be with you last night, he may have had the most to lose, quite honestly, is that they don't have as much name recognition throughout the state.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
So that actually
Darren
helps
Bailey,
them.
who ran again, and I'm just going to say this: Governor Pritzker and his campaign are chomping at the bit to run against Darren Bailey again because he lost 4 years ago, and there's no doubt that Pritzker put out a statement. The campaign put out a statement right after a debate finished, and I don't have it in front of me, but it basically said clearly Darren Bailey is no one can beat Darren Bailey. They want to take on Darren Bailey because they know that he's fairly unelectable up here in these parts, and they think that that gives them the best chance to sail to a victory. And these candidates last night didn't necessarily disagree. Bailey tried, and he lost 4 years ago, pretty big.
Yeah.
And
Well, they're saying the party needs to go in a different direction. So
all three of these candidates are from the Chicago suburban region, so you do need to have at least get a chunk. This is where all the population of the state is. You got to get a chunk of these folks. You can't just write them off and say, I'm just going to be for downstate. The math doesn't add up.
It's very interesting, and I think one of the aspects of your debate last night that's had legs for days today, throughout the day, overnight, and I'm sure will for the next few days, is their conversation about the Bears Stadium and where it should be.
I thought that was interesting too. Dabrowski, who has always hewed more libertarian, said, look, I don't think we should give them this tax bill. Why should they negotiate their tax? Why shouldn't they just pay their tax rate like everyone else? You know, if we get government in the business of picking winners and losers, this is not the free market here. And so I thought that was very consistent. He's like, I don't want to lose the Bears, but like, come on. So he's being consistent with his ideology. I thought that was a neat answer. And then, you know, the other two, I understand what they're saying. Heidner, I'm a businessman. We're talking about a massive development. So yes, we should give them some assistance to make this massive development and bring these jobs here. All right. I mean, you can make a conservative argument for that too. And so interesting divisions there. We'll see what happens here. I mean, I think they all said, do we want to do what Indiana's doing? Absolutely not. They're going to raise a bunch of taxes here on folks that can't pay their NIPSCO bills in Northwest Indiana to build a giant stadium for a team called the Chicago Bears. I mean, I just have to, like, how is that a political winner outside of Hammond? Hammond, it's great. Hammond's the greatest thing that ever happened to them.
Well, you know? Northwest Indiana. I mean, Gary, you know, it's a good thing even for Gary in the end.
Is it, though, like you're going to build a stadium and a development? Gary is still several miles away. Is that...
People would have to fly to Gary.
Well, that's a good point.
Know,
That's a good, maybe they develop the airport.
Rising tides.
Lifts all boats.
Lifts all boats.
But it's like, all right, what's the guarantee that that development is going to spread all across the region?
No guarantee on any of this, but that's why you need to be informed before you go and vote on March 17th.
Not that I have a dog in this fight. Maybe I do a little bit. I'm a Chicago Bears fan. I think you're the pride and joy of Illinois. I like that song. I like that line. So I'm just saying. But anyway.
Pair of shots. We will see you tonight at 6 o'clock for another round of debates.
Thanks,
Thank
Anita.
you so much for sliding on in, sir.
You got it.
Thank you.
I'm like so quick.
You can slide out. People saw you slide in. You can slide out. It's all right. It's 1:18. Give us 2 minutes. We'll be right back. All right, everyone, it's 1:20 right now, and we're watching a couple of different things develop live here. So first and foremost, let me take you out to the West Coast for a pretty interesting situation that's happening out there that our sister station is following right now. And what you're looking at is cameras that are set up outside of the offices for the school district in this area. So the backstory here, the FBI has raided the home and the office of the Los Angeles Unified School District Superintendent. That's Alberto Carvalho. This morning, they raided both of them. And so you may have a reporter that kind of steps in front of that shot there because, of course, they are on top of this story right now. They're out of Los Angeles. But again, both the home and the office of the superintendent there, we don't have much information on like what they were looking for or if this was a part of a larger investigation that kind of took them in this direction. But we do know right now that they executed search warrants at his San Pedro home and the downtown office where we're seeing these cameras here. They confirmed that the warrants were judicially approved. Of course, that's been a question in some of the raids lately. These were judicially approved, but they have not talked about the specific nature or the target of the investigation as of yet. So thus far, all we know is that this happened first thing this morning, that these agents came down to his home. Of course, this is the second largest school district in the nation, so quite the disruption to classrooms today as more people are finding out about what's taken place here. This was the FBI and the Department of Justice confirming that agents are serving court-authorized warrants at both the office and the home of the superintendent there. We also know that employees were evacuated from the headquarters. So again, speaking about the disruption there, the employees were all evacuated from the headquarters. Multiple FBI agents seen going in and out of the residence and this office building carrying boxes, unspecified items at this point in time in those boxes. We just really don't have much information as to the background, the context of this particular situation. But we do know that it's continuing on. The district officials have not released a formal statement regarding all of this, the disruption that's taken place right in the middle of the school day. But they do have some affidavits that are supporting the search warrants. They're sealed by a judge. And the FBI has declined to provide details regarding what the nature of this is. We do know that this superintendent has served this district since 2022. He was recently reappointed to the position just last September. Spent 14 years leading the Miami-Dade County Public Schools, so he's no stranger to this position or this type of high-profile position as well. He has a list of honors. I'm just kind of looking at his background here. We really do not know what this is about thus far, but we're going to continue to stay on top of it and let you know if we get any new information again about what's taken place there. All we know at this point in time is that the FBI has raided again both the house and the offices, the headquarters for the Los Angeles schools superintendent. So that is a major story that we are following right now with not much information as to the nature of these FBI raids, but I am certain that our sister station will have some more details as they become available, and so we'll pass those along to you as we get more information in. We've also been watching a couple of other things. If we can take you from maybe Los Angeles to Arizona, I believe we have a live picture from there as well. This, of course, is the home of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Savannah Guthrie, today's show host, Savannah Guthrie. We are now in week 4. Feel so horrible for this family. We are now in week 4 for the search for Nancy Guthrie, who authorities do believe was forcibly taken from her home, the home that you're looking at here. This is a live picture above the home because there's been some renewed activity there today. Now, we know that yesterday that the family, Savannah Guthrie, she posted online saying that the family is offering a $1 million reward for anyone who can bring their mother home. And this was really the first time that you heard her acknowledge her mother may not come home the way she left. That she, I believe in Savannah's words, may be lost. And by that, she means that she may be deceased. You know, in the very beginning of this search, they did say that she needed some type of medication within about 48 hours. We are in week 4. And so, yes, there have been what I think the authorities have described as breadcrumbs along the way. And we've seen some heightened activity from time to time. You know, there were a couple of nights I even stayed up very late as they were kind of going to different homes, and they've brought a few people in at times. But every time they've brought people in, they have released those people. And so we just do not have more information here about the 84-year-old mother of Savannah Guthrie, Miss Nancy Guthrie, as they now, though, descend back on that home. Don't know the nature of why there is picked up activity there today, but we just know that, again, this is about 24 hours or so since Savannah Guthrie offered or announced that the family is offering now a $1 million reward for any information that could bring Nancy Guthrie back to them. However, she may come back to them. Obviously, they're still hoping and praying that she comes back to them whole. I mean, no one could be not physically or not mentally harmed from for at least 4 weeks of being abducted, but that she would hopefully come back to them at least physically in good shape. But again, they are now starting to grapple with the fact that if they get her back home, it may more so be a celebration of life. And this is from Savannah in her post yesterday, speaking of whether they will be able to wrap their arms around her or whether they need to prepare themselves for thinking of her wrapping her arms around their loved ones that have already passed away. So still a very, very sad situation there. But again, renewed activity at the home of Nancy Guthrie. So if we get more information about why, we'll pass that along to you as well. You know, the FBI is asking people to call 1-800-CALL-FBI. So that number is 1-800-225-5324 that they're asking people to call. Again, there is a now $1 million reward being offered from the family for any information that could lead to her return. Now, the other couple of things that we're watching right now take us to Capitol Hill. We've seen both Democrats and Republicans stepping up to mics here to speak a little bit about last night and moving forward. Let's listen into this interview since it's taking place right now.
Insist on changes to things that are just not going to be feasible or tenable if you want to have law enforcement in this country with the ability to be able to do their jobs. Thank you.
I don't believe that you could hear her. We were hearing another interview that was taking place, so I think our signals were just crossed in the back there. But let's go back out to L.A. because I do believe that they are speaking now about the case there. Well, the reporter stepped in front of the mic, but she may not be ready for this broadcast. So we're going to take a 2-minute break here, and we will reset. We're getting ready for a couple of different conversations. Again, we do anticipate that right around 1:30, which is just a minute from now, we will either have Senator Duckworth, who will be joining us, zooming in to talk about the State of the Union address last night, or within moments, the press conference for former Governor Pat Quinn on his petition to keep the Bears here in the state of Illinois should be starting up. So give us 2 minutes. We'll be right back.
Just gonna block traffic there until we're done.
All right, it's 1:32 right now, and while we're waiting for Senator Duckworth to join us, let's go ahead and take a look at how the stock market is doing today. We have seen quite a bit of volatility this week. You know, the first day of the week, we saw a blip of green, and then it just took a nosedive into the red. Yesterday, we saw a bit of a better picture, and here, you know, the day after the State of the Union address, where the economy especially was a big talker, you know, that people wanted to hear about. Well, we're seeing plenty of green on the screen. This is what we want to see, of course, on any given day. But right now we're up for the Dow Jones Industrial Average over 280 points. S&P 500 has added nearly 0.8%. The NASDAQ Composite has traded up 1.3% here. So we're seeing some good signs. Obviously, the day isn't over, but we certainly hope that we continue to see good signs on the screen. So the major stock averages, if you think back to Tuesday, they all ended up advancing. We spoke a lot about AI concerns and disruption to several industries on Monday especially, and by Tuesday, some of the investors were kind of signaling that things were easing a bit here when it comes to their hesitancy surrounding AI. So the president also, of course, given that speech last night for the State of the Union, he talked about the state of the economy. I mean, he says the State of the Union is good, that we are strong. And as Paris was saying, he talked a lot about his wins, which any president would. He announced a proposal to offer workers access to a government-backed retirement account, something similar to a 401k. He talked a lot about the Trump accounts, and once again called for banning large institutional investors from buying single-family homes. So some things that, of course, have a bit of a bearing on what we see then the next day in terms of the market. The Democratic response from Governor Abigail Spanberger from Virginia. She asked, well, what's going to make life better? Did he specifically address what's going to make life better? And that is the big question that people have to parse with, that these leaders there in Washington and beyond are parsing with, especially in a midterm year. Do people feel what you are telling them? Are you telling them to believe something that they cannot feel? That is a big part of it. But the president believes that people should be able to start feeling some of the things that he has put into effect over the last several months very soon, if not already. He talked about gas prices going down, that there are many good things that people should support as Americans, according to him. Of course, Democrats see that very differently, and really called out some of the things that he did not address during his State of the Union. So as we were saying, it's really as though people are even more dug in than ever. Let's listen in here as another one of the Republicans is talking about what's going on today and last night.
Being held captive by the most radical people in the country on immigration.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you.
Okay, that was Senator Lindsey Graham as he was speaking just a bit about Iran, and that has been another really key index when it comes to what we've been seeing for the stock market over the last several days. When it comes to gas prices, of course, the president speaks about gas prices coming down, but oil prices have a lot to do with the tension and the relations, I should say, between the U.S. and Iran. So when we are seeing a heightened tension, as we do right now, with everyone kind of wait and see mode as to what's going to happen in Iran, this becomes an even bigger conversation as to the ripple effects that you could have from the conversations, the uncertainty. You know, the markets really move with uncertainty. So the uncertainty that you could see there, we know that there are more ships that have now been positioned into the Middle East. We know that there was a fleet of F-22, craft that went in that direction. I believe they took off just on Monday. So again, positioning all of these different military items there in the Middle East, and in wait-and-see mode. I listened to an interview with the Prime Minister of Iran, and he talked about the fact that, sure, they want diplomacy, but they aren't at the level of saying that they will not continue their nuclear program. Of course, the last military strike against Iran was to decimate their military program. And if you listen to President Trump, a part of the issue now is that he believes that they are rebuilding. And so even in listening to the interview with the prime minister from Iran, he's saying, well, we're not given a guarantee, at least in this interview. He was saying we're not given a guarantee of what we're doing with our program, because it is our program, but they do want a diplomatic resolution to this. Nobody wants to go to war. So there's still a lot of uncertainty where U.S.-Iran relations stand. So that's another one of the things that the president briefly touched on last night. Obviously, there's not a whole lot that maybe he can really go into. Obviously, he can't give away any secrets, but it is something that's weighing heavily on many minds, especially those of many military families throughout our country. You all know I was raised in a military family, so my heart goes out to all of them, because when you're watching the news and you can't have all of the details, but you're watching and you know that your loved one may be in that area, may be headed to that area, there is a greater sense of just concern that lives on your heart on a regular basis. We are going to take you back to LA now. It does look like the reporter there is giving an update on what's happening.
35 miles northwest of Miami near Pembroke Pines, if you're familiar with the area. In connection with this investigation, they served that warrant early this morning. FBI agents have now cleared the home that is somehow connected to the LA Unified School District School Superintendent Alberto Carvalho. Now, this morning they also served a search warrant at his home in San Pedro, and here on the 24th floor of school headquarters, LA Unified confirming to us that they are aware of the law enforcement activity in the building, but they have no further details. They did add that they are cooperating with the investigation. Now, the reason we don't have all the details as to what this investigation is about is because a judge signed off on the warrant being sealed, the affidavit behind it. Now, the affidavit would have all the details as to what this investigation is all about and what they hope to find at the San Pedro home, here at LA Unified School headquarters, and at that residence in Southwest Ranches. Sandra and Araxia.
So again, just listening to a bit of an update from her as she is speaking about the raids that took place this morning, I believe about 9 o'clock this morning in terms of LA time, there at the home and also the headquarters for the superintendent of the Los Angeles School District, and still waiting on more information. I mean, there were files. This was a judicially approved warrant, apparently, but there's a lot of files that are under seal right now. So they're working to get more information, just like we are right now, as to the why behind all of this. The office of the mayor, Karen Bass, there in LA, she only said that Los Angeles Unified School District is an independent body not governed by the city of Los Angeles. The mayor's office has no information about this. So still a lot of questions as to what is taking place there in Los Angeles with their superintendent and their school district today in the middle of the school day. But again, as we get more information, because it is a significant story, this is the second largest school district in the country. So still a significant story. When we get more information about that, we will be passing that along to you. I believe our next guest is on the line, so give me 2 minutes and we'll reset and we'll bring that person in. Okay, it's just about 1:45. I'm getting word that Senator Tammy Duckworth is in the midst of a vote right now that's taken a little bit longer than expected. So when we can bring her in, if we're able to bring her into the conversation, we will do that, but we're going to move on. And we have Lake County Sheriff Deputy Chief Chris Cavelli, who's back with us today. Thank you so much for your time, as always.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely. And I'm sure for an announcement like this, I mean, I say that I'm, the thought process of celebrating this is kind of like, it's positive and negative. Positive that you all are able to do what you're able to do, but then negative that we even have evil in the world that makes you have to do these things. But that said, you have a team that has rescued 5 children and made 13 arrests in 2025. Tell me a little bit more about this Internet Crimes Against Children team.
Yeah, so they've really picked up a lot of steam this year, and we continue to move ahead in 26 and into 27 doing the same thing. And what they do is they go out and they seek those that are using the internet or electronics to prey upon children. So whether that be online platforms or social media platforms, there are a number of predators out there, unfortunately, like you said, very unfortunately, who prey on kids using the internet, and they're very successful at it, unfortunately. So this team goes out, they initiate proactive investigations to try to locate these predators and identify them and bring them to justice. And they also respond reactively when we receive a report from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children or a ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children task force in another state that sends us a collateral lead. They'll investigate those as well.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we're speaking about a team of humans, but then also this is K9 Enzo's team, right?
Yeah, so we're fortunate to have K9 Enzo on this team, and K9 Enzo has a very unique ability to be able to seek out hidden electronics and specifically components that hold electronic memory. Because what we've found oftentimes is conducting these search warrants, there are plenty of times the predators are hiding these electronics maybe in rafters and ceilings and stairwells. But K9 Enzo, I mean, you're not going to hide from his nose. He goes in, he sniffs around, and he's able to locate hidden electronics, and he's been very successful at doing that.
It is so scary to think of all of the things that a mind that doesn't think like yours could come up with to harm or exploit children, especially. I would like you to talk a little bit about the expanded nature of what you all even have to do to bring some of these things to fruition or to the light.
Yeah, you know what, and you're absolutely right. It's unfortunate, and it is a scary thing, and it's especially scary for parents with young kids or teenage kids. And what we find is these predators will sometimes pretend to be a child themselves, and when they're on the other side of an electronic device and not making face-to-face contact with the victim, they're able to lure the victim into believing that they're somebody their age, and maybe sometimes that victim, obviously a developing mind of a child, thinks maybe they're engaged in a relationship with somebody that they like because somebody's posing as somebody else. And then the offender can elicit photos from the victim, elicit the victim to do things that the victim doesn't want to do. Just some terrible things that happen out there. And this team goes out, locates those individuals, and brings them to justice. And it's so important that we're proactively out there working to protect our community, especially when it comes to internet crimes against children and crimes that these offenders use utilizing social media apps. Chief
Cavelli, what type of resources do you even have for the members of this team? Because I know even as a reporter, especially in the early parts of my career when I was doing like day-to-day crime, it really takes a toll on your mind when you have a story about someone harming children. Like, how do they do what they do on a regular basis for a team like this?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, what brings them joy and happiness is removing an offender who's preying on a child, or removing a child from an abusive type home, or a home where they've been abused by a trusted, whether it be a parental figure or an adult in that home, and rescuing them, bringing them to safety. That's what it's all about, and that's what they're striving to do. And certainly their mental health is very important to us as far as the investigators, because you're right, they're looking at gruesome photos, they're looking at some of the worst things you can have to look at as an investigator, and children being abused. And we have systems in place where we ensure that their mental health is at the top of their game. There's resources available to them, because we can't forget about them. They're the ones that are bringing these individuals to justice and rescuing these children. We have to think about their well-being as well.
Absolutely, and it's just got to be such a tough job, a necessary one, and we're grateful for the work that they do, but I can just, I can only imagine seeing those images on a regular basis. Can you tell us about any of these rescues? I mean, I don't know how much you can reveal, but can you tell us about any of the rescues?
So in the case of the 5 that were rescued in 2025, they were being abused sexually in the home. And unfortunately, individuals were taking photos of them being sexually abused. So those offenders were held accountable. They were charged appropriately. We worked very closely with the Illinois Attorney General's office and the Lake County State's Attorney's office in all of these cases. And they're very much part of that team as well. This way we can ensure, number one, the well-being of any live victim that we recover from a situation like this. That's paramount, and that's so important to us. And then number two, holding that offender accountable. So everybody's on the team, and the teamwork comes together to really bring these cases to full justice.
Oh, goodness grief. In the home is one thing. Obviously, out in the community it is another type of level of concerns as well, in terms of how many children may have ultimately come in contact with the people who are doing these crimes. I know that you go and speak, or your teams speak with people at different schools. Tell me a little bit about those presentations. One, how those presentations are created, and even how you have to shift them over time to include new things that you find out there.
Yeah, it's a great point. And really the presentations at schools revolve around reminding kids and reminding our youth that once you send it, it's out there forever. So using good judgment with electronics. Almost every kid over, 13 years old at this day and age has an electronic device, has a cell phone with a camera with video capabilities. So we want, and they're very adult tools. A phone is an adult device, but we've, just how society works, we've given them to our youth at younger and younger ages. So we want them to make good choices with those devices, not take photos, go to a trusted adult if they feel pressured by anybody, whether it's somebody they know or somebody they don't know, into a situation that they're not comfortable with. And feel comfortable also if they've done something where they feel they've crossed the line, where they can go to a trusted adult. So we can take care of this right away and start trying to work to remove something that may have been sent that they wish was not, or to hold an offender accountable. And on the flip side of that, we also always remind parents, it is so important for parents to check who their kids are talking to on those devices. And I understand it can be difficult at times, and we want to trust our kids to do the right thing, but this really isn't about trusting them. It's about ensuring their well-being is okay while they're using these devices. They can be on apps that they are talking to people from other states, other countries, that they have no idea who they're talking to. So it's important to spot check those phones, spot check those conversations in the different apps, go through the camera roll, and have very open, honest, and frank discussions with our children.
Yeah. Can you speak to the increasingly important nature of these conversations and a team like this? I mean, we've had so many conversations about AI in the last few weeks, and I'm sure we'll have so many more. But just as technology continues to honestly stay one step ahead of us so much, talk about the increasing importance of this type of work.
Yeah, I can't tell you how important this type of work is. It is so important in law enforcement that we have teams that are investigating crimes being committed online and crimes being committed on social media applications. We all know how much technology expands every single year, and we all know how quickly as adults we can get behind that technology and not be able to keep up with the things that are changing. So it's important we have well-trained teams who are on top of these things, who know how all the various applications work, how technology works, and how evidence can be located through electronics. These teams stay extremely busy. The Internet Crimes Against Children teams, not only in Lake County, statewide and nationwide. I mean, there's some of the busiest teams out there locating offenders who are using the internet to prey not only upon children, but prey on our elderly. There's so many scams out there where there's romance scams and there's other scams that exist where are very easy for our most vulnerable to fall victim to.
Yeah, and I guess just on a final note, and it is a bit of a loaded question, but you all are a part of a whole when it comes to the justice system. Do you feel like after the work that you all do, that the rest of the justice system upholds that work, that the penalties for these types of crime are where they need to be yet?
Well, that's where these relationships with governments are so important, in the collaboration. And part of our team is the Attorney General's office. It is the Lake County State's Attorney's office. And we work hand in hand with each other during these cases, from the very ground level to the point of charges, to the point of full prosecution under the law. So from our perspective, what I can say is that we're on top of it, both as a sheriff's office, a state's attorney's office, and an attorney general's office, working together to hold these offenders accountable. And we've seen great success in our justice system being able to do that.
Yeah, and is there more that we need to be getting across to people to weed these criminals out, or to help you all in what you're doing?
Biggest thing is having those conversations with our youth, with our kids, reminding them of the importance of not putting anything on the internet, not sending photos out, not sending videos out, and to be open and honest if they're contacted by somebody or they engage in a conversation with somebody that's requesting these types of images. So communication is key. Keeping law enforcement in the loop if there is an issue is so important, so we can jump on it right away and begin an investigation. But I would say the most important thing is conversations with our kids about technology and the risks that are out there.
Super important stuff. It starts in the home. Thank you so much for your attention to this and giving us your time today to talk a little bit about it. Obviously, as you said, the more aware people are to what's going on out there, the more we can kind of tamp down on seeing so many of these things. But it is encouraging to see how many rescues and arrests you all were able to make in 2025. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Take care. 156, everyone. Those are tough conversations. And I am telling you that, when I was reporting more on a regular basis, those were some of the hardest stories to be on. So my hats off to the first responders who do this work on a regular basis and get in and do this so critical work so well at that they are literally saving lives. It's 1:57. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, everyone. We'll be back. I'll set you up for our 2 o'clock hour. All right, it's about 2 o'clock, everyone. Thank you so much for staying with us. And, of course, the talk of the town has been what's going on with the Bears in the years to come. And now we have former Governor Pat Quinn, who is speaking about keeping the Bears in Illinois. Let's listen in.
The way to go when it comes to pro football and having an NFL franchise that was the first franchise in the NFL, it should stay right here in Illinois. Be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Can you say how many signatures it's gotten so far? How many signatures?
I don't know. We're just kicking it off right now. You know, when you have a kickoff, it's a long game. You know, you got to play all 4 quarters. And we know from the Bears this past year, the 4th quarter sometimes is a decisive quarter. Our team was inspiring this year. And I think the great thing about it is it inspired the people of Illinois. People who maybe didn't even say hello to their neighbor. Now we're embracing their neighbor. We're all in this together. We're Bears fans, and we want to keep it that way. And don't let the fans down. You got to be loyal to fans. And I think the Bears, in making a decision on this, should understand this isn't a short-term money decision. It's a long-term loyalty decision, that it's the people who have built this franchise by coming to the games, supporting the team. They deserve to have the Chicago Bears right here in the state of Illinois.
If they move to Indiana, you think they'll lose some of their Illinois fan base?
Well, I think it's a lot harder to get there. You know, the proposal in Indiana is right next to the world's largest oil refinery. I don't think that's a really good place to put a stadium at all. And we don't want to let Indiana take our Chicago Bears and make them the team that from Indiana would be called the Hammond Hoosiers. We don't want the Hammond Hoosiers. We want the Chicago Bears to be in Illinois. And I think that what Indiana is trying to do, with their governor telling us we're ready, get prepared to be miserable, they don't understand the kind of loyalty that Chicago Bear fans have for decades.
Loyalty is one thing and tax burdens are another. How much money should Illinois taxpayers fork over to keep the team in Illinois?
Yeah. Number one, I don't think the taxpayers of Illinois should pay for a stadium. That belongs to the Bears owners. They should pay for their own stadium. I think taxpayers understand that. We also understand that in order to get to the stadium, there are roads, there are bridges, there are rail connections that may need to be adjusted in order to make the stadium work. And the commercial development, the retail and housing development around that. I think that's a legitimate expenditure of the state. When I was governor, we passed a capital bill of billions of dollars to help every community in Illinois get the kind of roads and bridges and infrastructure they need to grow into the 21st century. I think that investment is a good one, and I think we can have a decent, reasonable deal that's fair to taxpayers in Illinois, but also fair to the Illinois Bears fans who deserve a team that they've supported for over a century.
Okay, so he's fiery today. That is former Illinois Governor Pat Quinn, who's answering some questions here about his new push, his online petition drive to give Illinois Bears fans an opportunity to band together to tell the Bears owners to keep the team in Illinois. In his words, Illinois Bears fans are not going to let the Chicago Bears become the Hammond Hoosiers. He talked about the fact, kind of putting this into football terms. He says this is his kickoff, and that the Bears have been quite acquainted with fourth quarter wins, which means the fans have been quite acquainted with fourth quarter wins over the last season. This is a really interesting time in this entire discussion. Of course, just this week, we are watching things move forward in Indiana and also waiting to see what is going to happen in our legislature here in the state of Illinois. It appears that all hope is not lost for Illinois. There was a moment there when we thought maybe they were closing the door. Indiana was going to get this team, but right after that, started to say, okay, pump the brakes just a bit. We got a notice from Kevin Warren, who said, well, we are still working with the legislature in Illinois, so all hope is not lost, but something has to be done. And so the legislature here in our state is going to be taking up this mega project bill this week. Again, this week, before we turn the page over into March, this week is going to be critical in that conversation as to where the Bears will end up in the years to come. But this is now former Illinois Governor Pat Quinn weighing in and wanting other people to weigh in here to keep the Chicago Bears, at the very least. I mean, it doesn't look at all like we're going to keep them in the city of Chicago. That kind of looks like a far cry at this point. But at least to keep them in Illinois. It seems like everyone's kind of coalescing around that fight right now to at least keep them in Illinois, the pride of Illinois, keep them in Illinois. So he also talked about the location even in Hammond and the history there in that area, some environmental concerns that he believes maybe haven't even been totally thought through. But he said that the Bears during this past season were very inspiring, and we hope that this fight will seem inspiring for the legions of fans who are weighing in as well. But it's an ongoing conversation. We'll see what happens. We are covering every angle for you. So stand by. We will see what happens from here. Now, another story that we have been watching very closely, and this one for the last few years, has been the murder case of a woman from our area who lost her life in Bali. And there was a woman, Heather Mack, the daughter, who was put into prison along with her former boyfriend at the time, but former boyfriend, who were both put into prison. That man's name was Tommy Schaefer. They were both put into prison in Bali. But there's been a whole lot of change since then in terms of this case, and even just this week in the last 48 hours. So I want to bring in Joseph Scott Morgan. He is a forensics professor in the Department of Criminal Justice and Forensic Investigation at Jacksonville State University, so that we can talk a little more detail about what's been deemed the Bali suitcase killing. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, Anita. Thanks for having me on board today.
Absolutely. So we learned this week that Tommy Schaefer, who was sentenced to an extensive period of time in Indonesia, was released and put on a flight back here, or at least is supposed to be put on a flight back here to the United States. And we saw similar movement with Heather Mack not too long ago. So get us up to speed on where we are with this case and how this is even possible. If someone is supposed to spend decades in prison, that maybe 1 decade in, they're already out and coming back to the U.S.
Yeah, I think that Schaefer himself was supposed to be imprisoned over in Indonesia for, approximately 18 years. But the authorities saw fit over there as a result of so-called good behavior on his part while he was incarcerated to cut him loose early. So he has done 11 years of 18, if I'm recalling correctly. And so as a result of that, he's done his time in Indonesia. But I think that our federal government wants a shot at him just like they do with Heather Mack. So they are, in fact, transporting him back here. It's going to be the U.S. Marshal Service that's bringing him back. They handle these kinds of cases. They will meet him or have met him at the airport, and they're going to be flying him back to the U.S. And it's my understanding he's going to stand before a federal magistrate in the Chicago area tomorrow, and he is going to be informed of what he is going to be charged with.
Mm-hmm. Take us back to the start of this case in 2014. It seemed especially heinous.
Yeah, it is. It is. It drew my attention. I covered this on my podcast, Body Bags, and the reason I have a forensic science podcast, and I was teaching my students at the time here at Jack State about blunt force trauma, and this case just kind of smacked of this as a great example of what had happened, because this is not your run-of-the-mill everyday kind of someone takes a hammer and attacks somebody. It's a very disorganized crime. Essentially, Sheila, the victim, was already at the hotel there in Bali, lovely place, by the way. And he, Tommy, had, under false pretenses, had come to Indonesia in order to talk to Sheila about Heather being pregnant. Okay. Well, that, according to the authorities over there, was not the intention. The intention was to get to the $1.4 million trust fund that Heather had lying in wait for her, that had been left to her by her departed father. And when they went up to the room with Sheila, that's Heather and Tommy, the attack commenced at that point in time. It's hard to kind of nail down the timeline, but what we do know is that this was facilitated with essentially a large glass bowl. Some people have called it an ashtray, other people have called it a bowl. She was literally beaten to death with this thing. And the reason I'm saying this is disorganized is that they didn't know what to do with her remains. And so what happened at that point in time is that they wrapped her remains up, placed her remains, she's not a huge woman, placed her into a suitcase and proceeded to place that inside of a plastic bag, go downstairs. They called a taxi and they loaded the suitcase with her body into the trunk. And when the cab driver was, he's kind of standing there and he's thinking, where'd these people go? Well, he opens up the trunk and pulls back the bag, and the outside of this piece of luggage just saturated in Sheila's blood.
It's really horrific to even think about. And then, of course, we're speaking about a young woman who was pregnant at the time, who has since given birth to that baby. Do we know what happened to the child?
I don't at this point in time, to tell the truth. The child was born while she was obviously incarcerated. And, I got to tell you, Anita, I saw photos afterwards of her. I'm not going to say she was living, lifestyles of the rich and famous or anything, incarcerated, but she was kind of free to come and go as she pleased. She had a lot of liberty and latitude in there. They talked about how well-liked she was, this sort of thing. I don't know if Tommy's treatment was the same as hers, but she was with her child for a period of time at least. And so that, that kind of parental connection was made at that point in time. But what the feds are looking at now with Schaefer is this idea, and I think a lot of people are probably scratching their head over this, how can they charge him with something even that was committed in Indonesia? Well, you have to understand, he entered into a conspiracy to fly from the U.S. to a foreign country in order to murder someone, all right? And there's federal law, specific federal laws that prohibit that. And so that's what he's being called to task over at this point in time. We'll see how this, and I'm going to be, if you're a trial watcher, I think that our listener, there's not going to be any cameras or anything in a federal court, but just to see the information that comes out, because this is a very dynamic case. This is something from an investigative standpoint that starts off in a foreign country, and now it's culminating with the second half of this thing taking place on U.S. soil. So it'll be interesting to see how they bring this thing full circle.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and I was just looking. It appears that, so in Indonesia, for a woman who is behind bars, the child can stay with you until the age of 2. Then there was some type of custody battle, and the child was placed with a cousin of Max in Colorado. So many different angles to this. There was also another person connected to this as well.
I'm not necessarily familiar with that, but
this,
I think that
Schaefer's
there probably
cousin,
was, if I remember correctly, again, part of the conspiratorial buildup of this thing. And I think that that's one of the things that caught the feds' attention, that you had these individuals were all purposed to end Sheila's life. And listen, Heather and Sheila's relationship had been contentious, to say the least. There had been ongoing fighting. Some people had referred to Heather as being indulged in a spoiled brat and all these sorts of things, and that she wanted to have her way. And when Schaefer enters into the picture, they set their sights on this money because it's going to be a windfall for them where they can live free of the mother. And I figure, that they felt like they could do away with her in a foreign country and maybe get away with it and then come back to the U.S. and live on the high at that point in time, as they say.
Yeah, that's next level entitlement here. There was somebody, Robert Bibbs, a cousin of Schaefer, who was helping with the plot and ended up serving 9 years in prison, which means he would be out by now for taking part in this as well. I mean, when you think of cases that you followed, where does this kind of rank in terms of some of the stranger cases that you have been watching for several years?
Yeah, well, Lord have mercy, we've got enough on our plate here in the U.S., right?
Right.
But you throw in this kind of international angle to it, and for me as a forensic practitioner and a teacher, it's an opportunity for us to kind of understand, how other countries handle cases. And be honest with you, I think they did a fine job over there. But here's the thing, even though they have this kind of derivative evidence over there in Indonesia, one thing I ask everybody to watch is how much of that stuff is going to be allowed to be talked about in a federal court here in the U.S. And that'll be a fascinating dynamic to this. It is, back to your initial question though, Anita, it is quite compelling because it's not every day that we have something like this that has this kind of linkage. You hear about it in movies, you see it on TV and this sort of thing, but this is far the exception as opposed to the norm.
Yeah, you would certainly think that something like this ends up becoming a movie. It's horrible that it's actual
Absolutely.
real
Yep.
life. Yeah. And what are some of the lessons that for students who are coming into your classrooms, what are some of the lessons that they could glean from a story like this?
Right. Well, I think that one of the big things, as far as if you're trying to set up an investigation to understand it, you never know where any particular path is going to lead you. You know how mom tells you, don't pull the string on the sweater or the whole thing will come unraveled. I'm the antithesis of mom. I tell my students, pull the string, see where it leads, see what's going to come unraveled with the story. And the story has got so many twists and turns. There's so many places, points of contact along the way and benchmarks along the way where you have to be very, very careful in how you enter into the investigation. And here's one more piece. It's also about international relations as far as investigations go, because the authorities in Indonesia would have had to have coordinated with authorities here in the U.S. And I think there's been really good coordination to get the story together, make it seamless all the way through. And trust me, the feds have been working on this to try to get a prosecution going here as well. They've been closely monitoring this situation. So you just don't throw your hands up and say, well, that happened in another country. I don't have any interest in this. This is not going to go anywhere. Well, I can tell you there are all kinds of international cases out there. They're not necessarily brutal homicides like this, but in broad strokes, relative to any kind of investigation that you work, you have to be able to channel all resources and pay attention to the smallest detail, no matter where the road leads.
That was such a relatable analogy about pulling the string. Mom, grandma, all of them have said that for sure. So we could all relate to you saying that in terms of having the antithesis when it comes to really doing detailed investigations and following every possible lead here. So, of course, again, everybody, Tommy Schaefer, the man involved in this case, is supposed to be in the Dirksen courthouse tomorrow here in the city of Chicago before U.S. District Judge Matthew Kennelly. So a lot of people will be watching this very closely. Obviously, we'll be following this to a T and updating you both on air and online. Thank you so much for your time, Professor Morgan.
Yes, ma'am. Good to be here. Thank you.
Great to have you, and I'm sure we'll be calling you back again.
Please do.
All right. It's 2:18, everyone. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be back.
the animal care services.
Welcome back, everyone. 2:21 right now, so let me tell you a little bit about what you can expect in this hour from here. Before we get out of here and turn it over to the 3 o'clock hour, we're going to talk about the weather outside. It is a beautiful day in the city of Chicago, but it is chilly out there. I mean, we're still in those bubble coats, back in the bubble coats, but we'll see when we'll get a reprieve. You know, at least for the meteorologists, they're turning the page to spring on the first day of March. For the rest of it's a little bit longer, but you could see all those folks out there at the Bean at least enjoying the sunshine. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. We're going to also talk about the Trump retirement plan that he announced last night. What does that look like? How could it help people? Where is the money coming from? Plenty of questions there. And so we'll bring in Goldstone Financial Group to kind of flesh that out for us. We're also going to talk about a great announcement about Hattie B's opening up in Wrigleyville. Lots of folks have been excited about this one, and so we'll have the Hattie B's co-founder and chef Brian Morris from Hattie B's. The executive chef there is going to be talking to us a little bit about the Nashville-based fast casual eatery coming with their chicken sandwiches that so many people absolutely love. Coming to Wrigleyville, adding to what's in Wrigleyville, and there's so many options there. But we are going to start off with a press conference that just got underway any moment here. There is Mayor Brandon Johnson at Chicago Animal Care and Control. Let's listen in.
To this role, including leadership experience with CACC and across city government. She led the department through an extended acting period marked by historic intake levels, staffing, challenges, as well as increased public attention. Her leadership provided stability and accountability, particularly at a critical time, so that intake medical care, field response, and daily shelter operations could continue without disruption. Between 2023 and 2025, intake increased by nearly 5,000 additional cats and dogs. Higher food and veterinarian costs have led more Chicagoans to make the tragic decision to relinquish their animals, contributing to this intake growth at CACC. And that's one more reason why my administration's focus on affordability is so important. Despite the sustained pressure CACC is making, and it's great progress, the transfers to rescue partners reached the highest total in more than a decade. Euthanasia rates remained flat from 2024 to 2025, even as intake continued to rise. And excitingly, adoptions reached the highest level in department history in 2025. Woo-hoo! Together, this data represents a citywide commitment to compassion, care, and a clear focus on life-saving outcomes. And still, there's more that we can do to improve operations and support the animals and staff at Chicago Animal Care and Control. And so, through the fiscal year 2026 budget, my administration, working alongside of aldermanic champions, Rosana Rodriguez-Sanchez, Jesse Fuentes, Lamont Robinson, thank you for Alders Ramirez, we were able to improve and increase funding for CACC by roughly $660,000. This represents an almost 10% increase in the budget after decades of underinvestment. Thank you all for your leadership. We believe that investing in CACC is essential to our mission to invest in people because animals are essential to the emotional, social, and mental well-being of our residents. This investment will support staffing, operations, and the continued ability to respond to high community demand and provide the care that our city's animals deserve. And with this funding commitment and Susan's appointment today, we solidify our commitment to serving Chicago and building a compassionate city. So I'm confident that Susan will continue to lead CACC to success with professionalism, accountability, and dedication. And thank you to Susan and the entire CACC team for overseeing 3 years of life-saving work and progress. I look forward to our continued work together. And with that, you all, please welcome to the podium the newly appointed Executive Director for the Chicago Animal Care and Control, Ms. Susan Capello.
So, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson, for your leadership and collaboration in accelerating our progress at Chicago Animal Care and Control, and thank you for your faith in my leadership. Thank you as well to our aldermanic leaders and all of our partners who continue to support us. Chicago Animal Care and Control is a high-volume municipal shelter. Animals arrive every day, often in crisis, and our responsibility is to serve both people and pets with compassion, professionalism, and accountability. Over the last 3 years, intake at the shelter has increased significantly. Between 2023 and 2025, nearly 5,000 additional cats and dogs entered our care. That pressure is real and constant. Despite that, our team achieved record outcomes, the highest number of adoptions in department history, the highest number of transfers to our rescue partners in more than a decade. And then euthanasia did not rise proportionately and remained essentially flat year over year. These results belong to our staff, our volunteers, rescue partners, and community members who show up for this work every day. The 2026 budget increase, thanks to the steadfast support of Mayor Johnson and Alders Rodriguez Sanchez, Fuentes, Robinson, Spizzato, is a critical intervention. It allows us to add positions in customer service, animal care, public safety, and shelter programming, helping stabilize staffing, strengthen daily operations, and expand life-saving pathways while meeting the realities of municipal intake. I am honored to step into this role and honor the trust that Mayor Johnson has placed in me by committing to transparency, data-driven decision-making, and continued progress for the City of Chicago. Lastly, I want to acknowledge every commissioner for Animal Care and Control who came before me. I said I wasn't going to do this. I wouldn't be here without their support, especially Mamadou Diakate, our previous executive director who passed away recently. Mamadou gave over 20 years of service to animal welfare in Chicago, and he will be remembered fondly by all of us who had the privilege of working alongside of him. I apologize for that, and thank you so much for coming out today.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rosana Rodriguez Sanchez. I am the alderperson of the 33rd Ward and the chair of the Committee on Health and Human Relations. I'm very proud to be here today. We all know that care work is undervalued. And when it comes to animals, they can't really advocate for themselves. So it is incumbent upon us to do the best that we can to protect them. I am very proud that this administration, alongside my committee, my vice chair, Alderwoman Julia Ramirez, worked very diligently with community. This administration is very committed to working with community. And we were able to advocate for more funding, and we know how needed that funding is at this moment so that this work can continue. I'm so grateful for all of the staff here at the shelter. I am so grateful for all the volunteers and for all of the people who have come to advocate so that this work can continue. And I'm looking forward to continue to work with Sue and with community so we can continue to advocate for better conditions for all the animals in Chicago. Thank you. And now I'm going to call on Alderman Robinson.
Good afternoon, Alderman Lamont Robinson of the 4th Ward. It's certainly great to be back here. I was here about 2 years ago, and one of my most prominent social media posts was on adopting and making sure that our residents know that they can come here to be able to pick up an additional family member here at Chicago Animal Care and Control. I would be remiss if I didn't thank the hard-working staff of this great institution. Let's please give them a round of applause. The city of Chicago continues, Mr. Mayor, to be the forefront of how we take care of all of the residents. And I want to thank you for making sure that we have great leadership here. And Susan, congratulations again to you. And then secondly, it is the reason why we put more funding into this department. Again, we have to make sure that we protect all citizens, including our four-legged citizens here in the city of Chicago.
All right, so that is Alderman Lamont Robinson as he's speaking there at this announcement about increased funding for animal care and control. You know, I always say there's like a story within a story. So this is indeed a beautiful moment, a great announcement that's happening there for animal care and control. They talked about intake increases and trying to meet those needs, especially under the current economic conditions that are causing more families to maybe relinquish an animal they don't feel that they can adequately care for. They said at the same time as the intake going up, euthanasia rates are flat and adoptions were at their highest level in history. They want more life-saving outcomes, and that's why they've announced this money. The mayor announcing this money in this press conference that kind of serves as a dual front. Again, story within a story. So let me just pull back the curtain before we move forward, okay? Because in this moment, what we're also seeing is kind of a united front against opposition that was really pulling for the mayor to go in a different direction for the executive director of animal care and control. He appointed Susan Capello to that position in February. So she is newly appointed, but just last week, if you were here with us on Chicago Live, we were speaking with Alderman Villegas, who along with Alderman Ruth Cruz, put together a letter with several other aldermen and animal rights activists who were calling on what they said. They want a nationwide search for a qualified executive director of Chicago Animal Care and Control. This was a big story as they were pushing for the mayor to essentially walk back the appointment that he just made of Susan Capello. And so, again, pulling back the curtain, what we're seeing now is the mayor is standing 10 toes down on this, essentially. He is sticking with Susan Capello amidst these calls for her to not be the executive director going forward. Alderman Villegas, when he was with us, talked about many of the concerns that he and Alderwoman Ruth Cruz heard from animal rights activists, many volunteers there at Animal Care and Control, and they feel that even though she has been a long-standing employee there who is now being elevated, from what they are hearing from the volunteers who work there, that things are not going in the right direction, and that they feel is a part of the problem. So they wanted her to move aside. They wanted the mayor to open up a nationwide search, and it does not sound at all like he is moving in that direction. And in fact, he now has a coalition of frequent supporters who are standing by his side. So he called out Alderman Will Hall, Alderman Fuentes, Alderman Sanchez was there, Alderman Ramirez, Alderman Robinson was just there, and they are in full support of his move to keep Susan Capello there as the executive director for Animal Care and Control. So again, story within a story, the story that they're talking about right now, and that is the more life-saving outcomes that will come from increased funding for Animal Care and Control, $660,000. That is a wonderful thing, and hopefully it will help to save more animals' lives. But the story within the story, they are also fully standing behind the newly appointed director, Susan Capello, even though there have been several aldermen who were asking for the mayor to walk that decision back and to start a nationwide search. So it doesn't look like that is going to happen. We will continue to put in phone calls for more reaction, I guess, to that. But let's move forward with our conversation about what's happening here in the city of Chicago, and more specifically, at Wrigleyville. Always a fun place to be. And now you have even more good eats coming to the neighborhood. I want to bring in some representatives from Hattie B's with the excitement building about a new location opening up here in our area at Gallagher Way. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, welcome to Hattie B's.
Okay, so I have Nick Bishop here. Wave your hand so I know. Okay, that's Nick. All right, he is Hattie B's co-founder, and then Chef Brian Morris, who is Hattie B's executive chef of Hattie B's. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here. What an exciting moment for us, but also for you all.
Yeah. This is a big deal for us. I'm thrilled to be here in Wrigleyville and get to meet the neighbors and no part of the
As you all expand your territory, I'll say, as you expand your territory, why Wrigleyville?
Well, Chicagoland and people from this area have been some of our biggest supporters since day one in 2012. And this has been the area that we're most excited about outside of Nashville ever since then. So we've been working hard for a long time to get here, and it's hard to believe it's just a day away now.
Ooh, okay.
But, Chicago's not that different from Nashville. People really care about the way they make you feel here, just like we do down there. So a lot of common kindness that Nashville does.
That is true. Common kindness there. And you got to tell me about this hot chicken that has everybody already buzzing.
Well, listen, here's the thing. We're really proud of our Nashville hot chicken, and that is perfect southern fried or grilled chicken dipped in hot melted spices. But you don't have to go spicy. You can totally come in and get perfect grilled or fried chicken with no spice at all. You can try some of our sweet and smoky, or you can be brave and climb the ladder all the way up to very, very hot. But there's a lot of great flavor in between. Grandma fruit sides and desserts. Nick's favorite ice cold beverages. You can't go wrong.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for thinking of those of us who have acid reflux and can't go all the way up the ladder.
Yeah. No, listen, you don't have to suffer here. But the good news is when you do, $1 of every order of our highest heat level, which is Shut the Cluck Up, goes to benefit a local charity here.
Wait. I think you said something that I don't have to bleep, so I'll ask you to repeat that. What was it called?
It's called Shut the Cluck Up. Everything here is grandma approved. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Nick, tell me a little bit about the concept for Hattie B's.
Listen, hot chicken is a dish that is native to Nashville and been around for 100 years. Started by the Prince family, and we are just trying to be good stewards of it, the food, the dish, Nashville, and so yeah, we started this thing 14 years ago now, and we have always wanted to be in Chicago. It's a really good moment for us.
Awesome. Congratulations. I mean, when you started 14 years ago and you're thinking big thoughts, I mean, how has it been to see so many of your dreams come to fruition?
It's incredible. It's not why we started this thing. I mean, we just wanted to open a great restaurant and quickly found ourselves surrounded by really wonderful humans. And that really is what our superpower is, our people. And it just gives me a lot of faith in our ability to grow this thing and do it the right way and continue to show up and be partners in the community and serve great food and put smiles on faces.
Aside from interviews today, I mean, are you nervous? What's happening one day before the doors are open and people flood in?
I'm always nervous. Brian helps calm me down because he's usually got it.
I gotta say, of all of the restaurants that we've opened so far, this one has been the most amazing first week, training week experience. We've been blown away by the human beings that we were lucky enough to capture as the opening Hattie B's Wrigleyville team. And I think when you come in the door, not only will you taste how incredible our team here is, but you'll also feel it. And that's really what we're here to do, is make you feel incredible when you walk in, even better when you're walking out. So, yeah, I mean, really credit to the Chicagoans, the soul that we found here locally to really make this cultural thing work. So that, I think I'm mostly just thrilled, pinching myself that we're here at the foot of Wrigley with the most amazing set of humans, one day away from bringing you my favorite food on the planet.
One day away. And I think, I mean, what perfect timing when baseball is getting ready to really get into full swing.
Yeah, we'll have about a month to kind of get our feet under us and make sure we're ready to roll for opening, not our opening day, but baseball's opening day. So yeah, we've got a great team here, and I feel confident that we'll make some new fans and hopefully feed a lot of baseball goers.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking forward to developing some fun things that may be able to walk into the stadium. So,
The Cubs have been awesome.
They
I'd
have,
like
yeah.
to say that out loud. The Cubs have been incredible partners, and have been game to have some fun with this. And that's been very heartening. We're new to town, so we appreciate the effort.
The game day atmosphere over there is just amazing. I remember even going just in that area in Wrigleyville when I first moved here, and didn't intend to go to a game that day. We were just going to go eat in the area. But the game day atmosphere was so intense that we were like, wait a minute, let's look online and get us a ticket, and ended up going to the game that day. So it is intense. It is serious, and I'm sure your place is going to be packed. When you look around Wrigleyville, are you filled with that nostalgia? And then tell me some of the other places where you have locations, and like, how much is it you bringing Tennessee to those locations versus those locations having an influence on your Tennessee location?
That's a great question. I think we want to show up and bring peace to Nashville, but we don't want to be seeing this. We want to be a part of this community. So I think we make a lot of effort there to try to really immerse ourselves in the things that matter to people in Wrigleyville or wherever it is. And so that's important to us, and try to show up that way.
Yeah, and it's cool when the things that we try to amplify about Nashville, like the combination of a hug and a high five, like the way that it's electric, but you feel loved up on. These kinds of things we try to amplify, and we feel like they're very Nashville. But it's so cool to come to a place like Chicago, where those things are also very Chicago and very much Wrigleyville and game day. And so we're amplifying what's here already too. That's maybe what makes markets like this so exciting to grow Hattie B's into.
I think this is so awesome. I'm so happy for you all. And again, I know you will be packed in no time. Now, are there some special things that we should let people know about for the big day tomorrow?
To come hungry. And you don't have to. It doesn't have to be cheat day. We do great grilled and fried. Yeah, we've got something for everybody, from salads to ultra indulgent jumbo whole wings, Nick's favorite banana pudding, my favorite peach cobbler, ice cold Jack and Coke. I mean, you just can't go wrong. So come hungry, come thirsty. We
I think like 200 people to get some fun stuff as well. So hopefully those folks are in line tomorrow. You make sure to take good care of everything.
Please early.
There we go. Come early, yeah, so you can be in the beginning, but stay in case you aren't part of the 200. You'll still leave with your stomach happy at the very least. Thank you both for being here. What time do you open up tomorrow?
10:45.
10:45.
Yeah, and probably a little early, though. Yes.
Something tells me you'll already have a line before 10:45, well before then. So happy day for you all. Again, congratulations, and we'll have to duck in. You know, the only thing that was wrong with this interview?
You don't have food.
I'm sitting here without food. There you go. There you go. That's the only thing wrong. I'm so playing with you all. You all take care. Best of luck to you.
Y'all taking the time.
Very happy for them. Love their spirit. It's 2:45, everybody. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's 2:47 right now. And of course, going into the State of the Union address last night from the president, one of the things that you can see in almost any poll previewing the State of the Union address was that people wanted to hear about the economy. People wanted to hear about what is going to make life better for tomorrow, for years to come. And one of the things that the president touted was this new Trump retirement plan. And so we pulled on our friends from Goldstone Financial Group to kind of walk us through this announcement, how that would look for people. Matt Rice is joining me now. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here today.
So listening to the State of the Union address last night, when you heard about these Trump retirement plans, what went through your mind?
Well, I think there's just a lot of questions still in terms of how they're going to be implemented, what Congress needs to implement, because there is a federal government obligation here from a cost perspective. There's already things out there like 401k plans that are competing directly with this. And so there's just a lot more questions probably than answers at this point.
Yeah, the president said that the government would give $1,000 match. Yeah, and you wonder, where does that come from? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. It appears that it would come from the federal coffers as well, and those are the same coffers that are competing for Social Security dollars, Medicare dollars, and everything like that. So when I hear, for example, that there isn't the need necessarily for congressional adoption of this, I kind of disagree with that. I think that it's very important that Congress actually weighs on this, passes laws, with the Senate and the Congress get together and kind of actually implement this, because the idea that this could be done, I think, without with just the executive branch going forward all by itself is probably not going to hold up to legal scrutiny.
Which, of course, is something we've seen on a continual basis, that the president has, that the authority has been expanded with President Trump, thanks to the picks that he has made to the to the Supreme Court and to many other courts. But now we're starting to see some checks on that, like what we saw with the tariffs, that his emergency authorization actually wasn't legal. But of course, that came down the line. The check took almost a year before there was actually something to say, no, actually, you went the wrong route.
Yeah, I think in this particular case, he's probably going to face some challenges from inside his party as well. Is there a lot of more libertarian fiscal hawks that don't like the idea of necessarily the government creating a new kind of uncapped obligation going forward, especially in an era when we've got Social Security, Medicare, some of these other obligations we've created that we kind of need to rein in and get under control. So I think there's some interesting parts to this idea that could be useful. Folks that don't have 401k plans, and areas where this could fill a potential use. But at the end of the day, I think our president needs to get Congress on board with kind of adopting this and kind of build broader kind of support for it before just assuming it's going to happen. Otherwise, I would read it much more as an announcement of a proposal as opposed to something that really has any chance of being implemented. There's just a lot of implementation that, from an administrative record-keeping perspective, that would need to happen, where I think you would definitely need Congress to kind of be a part of all of those details.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not even hearing cautious optimism from you at this point.
I think it's a very interesting idea, and I think it's got a little bit more hurdles to cross. I think step one is probably to sell the concept to the American people, and then get folks on both sides of the aisle to weigh in and come up with a more detailed proposal on what this actually means, how it would actually work. There's just other things that are out there, including provisions in the Secure Act 2.0 that kind of compete with this, and so there's just a lot of things that probably need to be worked out before this becomes a workable solution.
So let's talk about the issue within the issue, and that is that most people don't have enough saved for retirement. Expound on that.
Yeah, I think many Americans have just not saved enough for retirement. I think even Americans who have access to 401ks, IRAs, and other savings vehicles have not saved enough. And I think that's a big reality, that there's a lot of folks out there that, without Social Security or potentially Medicare to help out as well with, healthcare costs when they get older, are going to have some challenges when they retire.
Mm-hmm. And so,
or might not retire at all, actually.
Yeah,
So.
that's another conversation that's really been building, that we are seeing more people. And I think I saw an article just the other day that talked about reverse retirement even.
Yeah. It's I think the idea of retirement is evolving a little bit. And that's why I think that there's out of the gate, why this proposal that the president laid out it sounds interesting on the surface, and I think there's some good ideas here to help do it. But I just think that it's a little bit early in terms of getting too excited about this. I think out of the gate there just needs to be a little bit more buy-in. But I think the idea of taking care of folks that don't really have access to an employer 401k plan and provide some form of a matching contribution is a particular area that this does fix. And I think so is kind of a broad idea. It's a good idea, but I think it's just it just needs a little bit more maturation from selling to the American people and selling to Congress before we can announce it as a real proposal.
Mm-hmm. And so as we wait for maybe the pieces of that puzzle to kind of come together for this actually to be a thing on the table for people to take advantage of, and who knows the timeline on that. Let's say somebody is starting late, and this would be something possibly helpful for them. If they don't get this, what steps would you take? What steps would you advise for someone who's a little bit later in life and they have not saved up enough to actually get out of the working force, let's say by 65?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think there are folks in the that are not participating in their 401k plan that should do that. Of course, this was not designed for those particular folks. But if you have folks that, but there's still broad availability to things like IRAs, Roth IRAs, things that you can do right now to save money in a tax savings account. And so those are things those are available toolkits that are there and should be being deployed. I think the one thing that these new accounts potentially will allow for is a little bit more matching on the part of the government. But at the end of the day, there's still availability for people to put away their own funds in an IRA or Roth IRA, an IRA or Roth IRA or something like that.
Yeah. What do you think? Maybe one or two of the greatest mistakes that people make on the savings journey for retirement?
Well, I'd say that the first one is pretty easy, and that's that they don't participate, they don't save. And I think probably the second is that they wait way too long. So they end up saving, but they don't do it early enough, because time is really on your side when you're saving for retirement. There's this thing called the rule of 72, which means that if you divide the number 72 by your rate of return, that's how long it takes for you to double your money. So if you earn a 7.2% annual return on your money, it takes 10 years to double. And so every time you delay 10 years to save, there's a doubling factor that occurs, under that particular example, that's lost in your savings. So time is by far the most important factor.
Very interesting stuff here. Important stuff for people to keep in mind. Thank you so much. We'll have to call you back as we get more information, maybe as they're kind of firming up what the details of the Trump accounts would actually be when they're finally worked out. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Appreciate your time. It's 2:56 right now. Our chief meteorologist just walked into Studio 32, so give us 2 minutes. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Kicking off our 3 o'clock hour here on Chicago Live with our chief meteorologist, Emily Walls. Thank you so much for coming up.
Of course. It's a beautiful day.
It is gorgeous outside today and a bit deceiving.
Very deceiving. But you know, it is still February. Average for this time of the year has actually bumped up to 40, so we are running a little bit below that. But you know, it's 36 degrees. It's not so bad. We have the sunshine. We've had melting taking place. For any of you that still have some snow piles out there, it's not a lot of us. But in Northwest Indiana, of course, with some of that snow that we picked up over the weekend, with that lake effect, we're continuing to see that melting away. So we're in pretty good shape out there today. And this weather pattern is going to hold for a few days. So fairly quiet conditions. We're going to have some breezy days, but we'll have the sunshine and temperatures are really moving in the right direction. I've been saying this all along, and you know, during the shows, I kind of got the side eye from Dawn and Scott at 5 and 9 yesterday. I was encouraging people, if you have days to take it Friday. You know, it is the day of the week, and it's the last really warm day that I see in at least the near future.
Your day off?
It is my day off. Yes, so I can't even get in trouble for suggesting taking a Friday off. But gorgeous. We are looking at temps. I actually just boosted my high temperature for Friday to 60.
Okay.
So what are you doing on Friday, Anita?
Well, it looks like I need to start planning.
I know. You know, these are the types of days that restaurants in Chicago too, they will drag out all of their patio stuff for a day when you get those temps in the 60s, right?
If you pull it out, we will come.
Yes, exactly. So it is going to be just a gorgeous day on Friday. It is going to be breezy. But that kind of comes with the territory. Whenever you have one of those sporadic, really warm days in the spring or even in the fall, you know, typically it's coming along with some pretty gusty winds. So we will have that to deal with on Friday. But again, who cares? 60 degrees. It's going to be stunning. Then over the weekend, there's going to be a couple snow chances that we're watching. Models have been so inconsistent all over the place with our weekend forecast. So it is going to still be something here the next day or so that we have to watch closely, you know, and that's never convenient to hear when you're trying to plan your weekend.
And especially when you're coming off of 60 degrees.
Yeah, so the weekend temps, they'll feel like a little bit of a shock to the system here. 30 degrees by Sunday, but the best chance of snow at this time appears to be Saturday evening into the overnight, and especially for the southern half of the viewing area. So think I-80 southward for that first round. Then on Sunday, it's mainly during the evening, the overnight again, that we could be seeing a system moving through. But to be honest with you, some models are showing it, some models are not at all. So it is not a slam dunk forecast for your Sunday at all. I think the thing that you can count on is that temperatures are going to be cold. We're down to about 30, that's 10 degrees below average. And then going into Monday, we're back to seeing some sunshine. Tuesday, a little bit of a rain-snow mixture, but nothing major. And then we start to kind of get back on track with seasonably cold conditions, and that's going to put us in the 40s.
Oh, goodness. I mean, it's like spring is toying with us. Like, I'm on the way.
She's
I'm
like,
going to give you just a little bit.
I'm around
Not
the corner.
Not too much.
Yeah, but Friday is the day of the week.
Looks like it right now. All right. Well, we have our marching orders essentially, although it looks like our marching orders are kind of like get ready for the roller coaster for a minute.
Yeah, well, we never really got off, right? So we've just been up and down the last several days. Today we're kind of at a low point with the temps, but we have sunshine. So, you know, give and take this time of the year.
We'll take that. We will take the sunshine. Thank you so much for coming
very
up.
welcome.
We appreciate it. We'll see you at 4 o'clock. Everybody give us 2 minutes, and then I'll set you up for the rest of this last hour here on Chicago Live. All right, everyone, 3:05 right now. Let me set you up for what you can expect for the rest of this final hour of Chicago Live. Before we turn you over to the 4 o'clock news, we have a wonderful update to a story that we've been following. Of course, over the weekend, you saw the violence that erupted in Mexico after a cartel leader was killed. And there were so many Americans who were either stranded over there or told to stay away for a while. Well, one of those couples is from our area. They spent a year planning for their beautiful wedding down in Mexico, and then here it is, the week that everybody's supposed to be flying down to Mexico for their nuptials, and all of this violence erupts. So they had to switch gears at the very last minute. We did a story with them at the beginning of the week about just the turmoil that they're in right now and the shock of it all, trying to replan a wedding at the very last minute because they do want to stick with their date. And we have someone who has stepped in to help them. Always love an ending like that. Really an ending for the story, but a beginning for their lives, their new life together. And so we're going to be speaking with the event manager at the Alston about using their new space to help this help the newlyweds. Okay, that's coming up around 3:45. Also, we're going to talk about some troubling numbers coming out from new statistics that show 6 in 10 U.S. women are projected to have at least one type of cardiovascular disease by 2050. I mean, it feels like for as much as we try to raise awareness about heart disease, stroke, knowing your numbers, the risks, diet, exercise, all of those types of things, this really hurts, honestly, to see numbers going in this direction, not going in the right direction at all. But we do have a doctor from Northwestern who is going to be joining me to speak to the new numbers that are out and what we need to be doing differently to see them going in a different direction. That should be around 3:30. Also, for those of you all who love true crime, we have a podcaster who's going to be joining me, who's also the chief of staff for a department that's going to be talking about a particular case that they're working on, and the DNA lab and forensics that got involved in this, the genetic genealogy that they're using in this particular case. That should be very interesting. Obviously, we hear a lot about genetic genealogy, even in the search for Nancy Guthrie that we were speaking about not too long ago. So that'll be another interesting discussion to come your way. But first and foremost, I'm super happy to have Coach E, Ernest Horton, who is the CEO of Black Baseball Media and the Chicago HBCU Baseball Classic organizer, to talk a little bit about their new moment coming in May, the Chicago HBCU Baseball Classic that will be debuting at Wrigley Field. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you so much for having me.
And congratulations. My brother is a graduate of Prairie View. I am a graduate of Hampton University. So it does my heart well to see that Prairie View A&M and Alabama A&M will be taking each other on there at Wrigley for this iconic moment.
Absolutely. And shout out to the PV fam. You got to make sure you're there May 2nd and a place to be with your purple and gold on.
It is an easy gift for him, anything in purple and gold between his fraternity and also his school. So let's talk about bringing this to Wrigleyville. Why bring it to Wrigley Field? What was the work like getting it to this moment?
So we saw the outstanding success of the Chicago Football Classic and Larry Huggins and his team. And we also knew that Jackie Robinson, the last stadium he played at that's still standing is Wrigley Field. So the African-American roots and excellence surrounding around Wrigley is superb. And then also with Chicago having so much great HBCU lineage, it was a no-brainer for us.
I love it. And Larry Huggins does a phenomenal job with the Football Classic. We try to attend each year. What are you hoping in terms of people packing these stands and getting the word out? What is it like, trying to make sure that people support this effort?
Well, we've been overwhelmed with support. In 5 hours, we've sold out the first ticket link.
What?
And we are working, yes, we are working behind the scenes tirelessly through the night to ensure that we get that second link up. Right now, people can get on the wait list if you go to Cubs.com/HBCU. So make sure that you guys sign up. So when the second link comes, you guys are ready and attending.
I want you to speak to how the Ricketts have helped with this.
Oh man, the Ricketts family has been 1,000% behind this initiative when we present it to them. We cannot thank them enough.
Mm-hmm. And how do you pick the teams for the matchup? Are you a graduate of an HBCU? Like, how do we get Prairie View in Alabama A&M?
So I am a graduate of University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. I received a lot of threatening emails. No, I'm just joking. But we saw Prairie View A&M and Alabama A&M. They had a lot of Chicago kids that are currently playing baseball there. So we said, hey, why not select these programs to make it a big homecoming for those student athletes?
Oh, I think that's awesome. If I recall, Alabama A&M University was the first school that my parents took me to expose me to HBCUs when I was a kid, when we were living in Birmingham, or Montgomery. We were living in Montgomery, and I believe it was Alabama A&M was the first school I ever saw. I mean, are you going to have the bands out there? Because that's, I think, what kind of pulled me in as a kid.
Oh, we're going to have the bands. We're going to have a mini tailgate going on. We're going to have swag surfing going on. So everything that embodies the HBCU experience is going to be right there at Wrigley Field.
Mm-hmm. And stay right there. Talk about the importance. I know, I believe in them, and I'm a third-generation HBCU graduate, but talk about the importance of HBCUs, and especially now.
So right now you have to understand, if you look at the data and the statistics, doctors, judges, and lawyers are predominantly for the African-American community, led by HBCU graduates. So HBCUs are always in the forefront of education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we want that to continue on. We want there to be many more sports opportunities as well. You know, I was speaking with a former NBA player yesterday morning for our morning show, who is an HBCU graduate, about the HBCU Classic for the basketball during NBA All-Star Weekend. And of course, you mentioned the football classic that's here in Chicago. Now we have a baseball classic. Why are moments like this important to showcase HBCU sports?
Because we say it all the time, seeing is believing. If our youth can't see themselves on the grand stage at a HBCU, it won't happen. So we have to continue this mission for all the youth to be motivated to ensure the excellence of HBCU.
Mm-hmm. And so what do people need to know? Where do they need to be? What do they need to do when you get that next link up? I hope it's already up or ready for people to see this and act quickly so that we can be there to support you, to support these HBCUs.
Absolutely. So right now, get on the list. You're going to go to ChicagoCubs.com/HBCU. Click that link, fill all the information out, so when the next wave of tickets comes out, you'll be fully ready. And then also go to HBCUBaseballClassic.org. We have a week-long full of events, including a financial education seminar. We have a college career fair. We're going to have some network mixers, and also, that we could not be in Chicago without having some food, some Chicago food with our small local businesses.
Smart, very smart. So before I let you go, I do want you, it is Black History Month, and I'm speaking to you about a wonderful moment to highlight historically Black colleges and universities, but this all revolves around Jackie Robinson, as you mentioned. So I want you to just have a moment to talk about his lasting legacy in this country.
So he's the reason why we're able to have this platform and this event. The courageousness, the barriers he broke, you can't even put it into words. So we're thankful for Jackie Robinson. We're thankful for the Robinson family, and we're going to continue his legacy.
Thank you so much for being here on the show. Best of luck with everything. Thank you for what you're bringing to the city and exposing our young people to. Who knows who will be the next Jackie Robinson in the years to come, but you might be planting a seed that will grow over time.
Thank you so much for having me, and we look forward to seeing all Chicago May 2nd in Wrigley Field.
Hope to be there, and make sure you get Hampton University up here in the year to come.
We'll work on it. We'll be working on it.
All right, you take care. It's
all right, thanks for having
3:15,
me.
everyone. Give us 2 minutes. We'll be back. All right, it's 3:17 right now. I promised a little something for those of you who are lovers of true crime, and we have so many of our regular viewers who are. There is a story that really makes me think a lot about a case that many of us are watching now, that the Othram Chief of Staff is going to talk to me about now. Colby Leseon is joining me, and he's with Othram, which is a forensic laboratory specializing in difficult DNA cases. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you being here. We want to start off our conversation talking about this murdered Chicago man whose body was found near the train tracks, Terrell Hall. Tell me a little bit about this story.
Yeah, so this is a case where not too long ago, not even a year ago, a man's body was found in a shallow grave next to railroad tracks in Chicago, and investigators made efforts to identify the man, and traditional identification techniques that are used in forensics failed to do so, and so Othram was consulted on the case.
How often do you all get a call from, an outside agency that may be very far away for what you specialize in?
So Othram is working with investigative agencies, that's police department, sheriffs, state investigation agencies, Canada and beyond. And so we've worked over 600 examples of cases that have been resolved using this technology.
Wow, that is significant. And this is an increasing area of interest, this genetic genealogy.
So that's right. So Othram does a whole span of, or the work that we do span many different areas. This particular case did not require a full forensic genetic genealogy investigation. The reason that's the case is because investigators had located the remains of this man and were unable to make a formal identification. And through their investigation, they made contact with a family member or potential family member. And traditional forensic DNA technology using STR testing, which is what we think about whenever DNA profiles get uploaded into databases like CODIS, the STR DNA testing is perfectly suited to identify relationships that are close range, like parent-child or sibling, but they sometimes can fall short, if you will, in making identifications in other instances. And so Othram was consulted on this case as our advanced DNA testing is able to assist where this traditional STR testing may not be able to provide clarity.
Mm-hmm. And how does that feel to be able to give some answers to a family that probably before making contact with you all, before an agency makes contact with you all, thought they had exhausted all of their options?
Well, it's something that we're very grateful for. We believe that every single case deserves the attention and to essentially have answers. Removing certain uncertainty from investigations is our why, and we're honored to have been a part of this particular investigation, and so thankful that this case did not have to go cold like so many other cases in our country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when we say difficult DNA cases, where does this one rank when, according to you all's work, and what are some of the other ones that have been fairly difficult for you all to get some answers on?
Yeah, this wasn't a particularly challenging case from a DNA perspective for Othram. We have worked on cases where available, or in another example is our cases where there are mixtures of a suspect and a victim, and these cases can be particularly challenging to investigate from a DNA perspective when you have multiple contributors to a single sample. And so Othram has been successful in so many different cases where we have challenging evidence and where the cases were really thought to be unsolvable prior to our technology being used on the case.
And tell me, like, timeline wise, how long does it take you all to do what you do? I mean, do you speed up investigations? Is it still in and of itself pretty tasking to do what you all do in terms of time? Give me an idea there.
Yeah, so whenever an investigator first engages with Othram, we do a review that is typically done in a matter of hours or even less. It can be done in minutes, really, depending on the case, where we try to understand what's been done in the case in the past and whether we believe that our technology will be able to help on the case. Once that's done and evidence is in our laboratory, we first need to extract DNA if DNA extraction has not yet been done. And once that DNA extraction is done, we can build the profile generally if we're moving, at a rush speed, if you will, within 24 to 48 hours. But if you're going to do forensic genetic genealogy on a case, these cases can be more complex in terms of deriving an answer, because you need to provide investigators with leads, and those investigators will need to follow up on those leads to take next steps and really bring the case to a point at which an identification can be made.
Mm-hmm. And how long had investigators been working on this case of 26-year-old Isaiah Terrell Hall before it came to you all?
So the discovery was made in May of 2025, right around Memorial Day, and the case came to Othram in October of 2025.
Mm-hmm. And this was just announced Tuesday that that you all have helped to really open this up to the family, and at least, I mean, that this is a piece of what they needed for closure.
Absolutely. Answers are so important. Cases need to be resolved in the fastest way possible, so that justice can be served to those responsible.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about some of the other things that you all, I mean, when you talk about being on the cutting edge of technology and like where you hope to go from here, what you're already able to do, we're seeing is working, helping families. What are some of the other things that you're trying to work toward?
So we're best known for our work in forensic DNA technology. So we've developed what we call forensic grade genome sequencing, and that is what we use to develop the DNA profile for this man prior to his identification. And so, in addition to our forensic DNA work, we have other applications, software that makes use of AI, for example, to help in building family trees for a forensic genetic genealogy casework. We have other systems that ingest cases and case files that are, we're talking about handwritten documents, videos, audios, body cam footage, and et cetera. Ingest that into our system that's known as Othram OS, and then uses AI to help make sense of information, build timelines, assemble files into an order that makes sense to a human without a human having to go in and annotate thousands and thousands of documents. And this really helps to accelerate and make sense of the investigations, especially in cold cases, but even in current cases where you need to bring all this complex information together in a single place and make sense of it. And so really our role and our goal here at Othram is to accelerate investigations and identify humans.
Wow. Really incredible work that you all do. Thank you so much for making some time to talk with me about it today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I wish you the best.
Absolutely. Same to you. Take care.
Bye.
In speaking to him and what they do, I think about so many other cases where it has been labs similar to theirs that have been able to break a case that investigators have worked on for quite some time, or take it into a new direction. I think about the Idaho college students who were murdered, and the fact that it was that DNA, that forensic genealogy that investigators were able to use to finally come back to Brian Kohberger and say, this is our person. He had left the university where he was working at the time, gone back to his home, but they were able to take a sample of DNA and just the amazing things that they're able to do from such small things. I think about the case that obviously the nation is watching right now play out with Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie, and the fact that, in the very beginning, everybody's looking around like, well, maybe it's somebody in the family. And, within a week or two, they're able to say, we've done the genealogy testing there and cleared everybody in the immediate family. And even to see what they're doing with DNA in terms of the gloves that they found in certain places to say, this is what we think with this. Obviously, it still has not brought Nancy Guthrie home yet. But it is very interesting to see the new opportunities for investigators to look a little bit more deeply into things that they may not have been able to before, or that took them more time to access before. All right, it's 3:29 right now. We're going to get another 2-minute break here, and then we hope to get in our next guest from the American Heart Association to have a crucial conversation about keeping more women around. Welcome back, everyone. 3:31 right now, and February is always a month that we take a little more time to talk about matters of the heart. We start the month off going red for women, and we hope that by raising awareness, we are saving lives and impacting the quality of life for so many women. So it's troubling. It is indeed troubling when new numbers come out that don't necessarily go in the right direction. In fact, these new statistics say that 6 in 10 U.S. women are projected to have at least one type of cardiovascular disease by 2050. So let's talk about what's going on with Dr. Sadia Khan, National American Association, a Heart Association volunteer from Northwestern Medicine. Thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I wish that, you were coming back on the show for us to celebrate a win here, that the numbers were being slashed in half or something like that. Well, what do you make of this?
Well, these are some sobering statistics, not what anyone wants to hear, that we're heading in the wrong direction. But it's also an opportunity. We're not there yet, and we have a lot of opportunity to make a dent in this so that when 2050 comes, this will not be reality.
So why are the numbers expected to rise sharply in this time?
Some of what this data shows us is that there has been an increase in obesity. And in fact, it highlights that among young girls aged 2 to 19, nearly 1 in 3 are projected to have obesity by 2050. And that right there tells us that we have to start earlier. We talk about cardiovascular disease risk or heart health, oftentimes in midlife or older adulthood, but we have to start younger and earlier.
Very good point, because immediately when you talk about obesity, I'm thinking in a time of GLP-1s, so there is so much focus on not being obese, but that is an adult conversation. We don't talk as much about the kids.
Yeah, and we know that family health is really interconnected. So how mom and dad or parents eat or grandparents eat, whoever is in the home, affects children. And so really shaping this conversation into one that talks about heart healthy behaviors, heart healthy diet, getting physical activity, that 150 minutes a week is important starting in childhood.
Yeah, and let's break things down into what we're seeing. We're talking about youth. So what are we seeing in terms of age ranges? And then I want to break things down demographically a little bit more than that. But let's start with age.
Yeah, if we look at cross age groups, one of the things that's really striking is that even in women aged 20 to 44, we're seeing an increase in obesity, diabetes, and high blood pressure, and they're all connected. And so to me, this really highlights that know your numbers mantra. We talked a lot about it, but it's so important. Get your blood pressure checked, get your blood test checked out with your doctor, and have a conversation about where your health is now.
And it hurts my heart to see that the prevalence rates of health factors for cardiovascular disease will, for the most part, remain highest among Black women.
This is something that we have seen over and over again. And unfortunately, adverse social circumstances play a large role on that. Stress, racism, discrimination, all of these are likely factors that are contributing to these disparities and really force us to say we need to double down and address those external factors and empower Black women to get checked out, get treatment when they need it, and for society as a whole to really address these other factors that are contributing as well.
Yeah, and even when we say, remain the highest among Black women, our sisters who are Hispanic and Asian can't breathe a sigh of relief here.
Absolutely. We know especially diabetes is much higher in Hispanic and Asian women. And so keeping an eye on all of these factors, which we can often talk about as life's essential 8, the American Heart Association put together a set of 8 factors that knowing your numbers for those health behaviors and health factors can help prepare you to take control.
And then I also think about the fact that there is a pervasive conversation, especially in the city of Chicago, but I think it probably goes into many metropolitan areas, of the difference in life expectancy for those who live downtown versus the south side or the north side.
Yeah, I think the estimate in Chicago is somewhere around a 8-mile radius has a 20-year gap in life expectancy.
Ridiculous.
And we know there's lots of different factors that go into that, but it tells us that no matter what an individual person is born with in terms of your risk, where you live, where you grow up, the circumstances you're exposed to play a role in your health. So we need to start to recognize that, address social barriers where we can, address access issues to healthcare where we can, and really help empower people to be able to get access to healthcare so that they can get their numbers checked out. It's easy to say know your numbers, but we also have to provide a way for people to be able to access care.
Yeah, access is so important. So on that note, where do you see hope in terms of improving access?
Absolutely. I think we are really working on trying to raise awareness for the importance of some of these things that can potentially be done without seeing a doctor. So in terms of empowering people for more walking during the day where there are safe spaces and green spaces, promoting healthier food environments where we can, and really thinking about what are the other policy changes that are needed to ensure that people have access to health insurance. I think that's a much bigger national conversation that we need to have, but is so critical.
Yeah, and then in terms of hope, let's also talk about, I was having a conversation earlier today about the nutritional aspect of this, that you are starting to see. I mean, there's a lot to be said for health and human services and the direction they're going on a lot of different things. But one of the things that I think is being touted right now that is positive is medical schools, more medical schools looking at prevention in terms of nutrition.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if there's one thing these numbers and projections highlight is that we have to start earlier, and we have to start with nutrition and activity and health behaviors to prioritize prevention. And this is especially important for women as we think about the different life stages when there can be challenges with nutrition and weight. We think about pregnancy, we think about perimenopause. These are two critical life stages where we see a lot of propensity for weight gain. And so how do we help empower women as they are entering those life stages to be prepared for it and address it?
And talk a little bit more about how those periods of life can change your heart health and your risk factors.
Yeah, these are really important periods in life where risk for cardiovascular disease can be unmasked. We're talking a lot about what are the societal challenges. Well, we also are experiencing a maternal health crisis, and we know that the highest risk for maternal morbidity and mortality, so death during pregnancy or up to 1 year after pregnancy, is also highest among Black women. And so one first step forward is really acknowledging and raising awareness for that. And the second is that it's intricately tied to your heart health. So promoting cardiovascular health as you're preparing for pregnancy, during pregnancy, and after is going to be crucial to help mitigate that.
All right. Before I let you go, I want to talk about two very common but critical aspects of this conversation. When we say know your numbers, give people that information.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we are saying your numbers, particularly related to cardiovascular health, there are 8 key aspects of that, 4 health behaviors. So avoiding tobacco, eating a healthy diet, exercising, and getting good sleep. And then on the clinical side, the numbers that we're talking about are your weight, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, and your diabetes risk. So altogether, these 8 things give you a really good picture of where your heart is.
And of course, for those who maybe end up having some type of episode, whether it be a stroke, a heart attack, something of that sort, talk about how that can present differently for women versus men.
Really important question. We think a lot about the fact that we don't want heart attack, stroke, or heart failure event to happen to anyone, but especially in women, we notice that symptoms often go undiagnosed and untreated for longer. So recognizing that that clutching chest pain type of symptom may not be the exact same presentation in women. Women are much more likely to experience what we call atypical or different types of symptoms: extreme fatigue, sweating, nausea. It can be a lot of different things, but the key thing is if something is new or different, get it checked out.
And I want to, maybe on a final note, just touch on the fact that something that you touched on there, but I want to go a little deeper about taking care of ourselves. We are often taking care of a lot of other people, and that's a wonderful thing, but it's kind of like that old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. Or even when you get on the plane and they say if something happens, you got to put on your life-saving apparatus before others.
Yeah, absolutely. Women are natural caregivers. We're often taking care of children, parents, friends, and we often think about ourselves last. And this is really important to say that your heart health comes first, because if you don't take care of your own heart, you're not going to be able to take care of the hearts of your loved ones around you.
It's so important. Again, I always love speaking with you. I wish that it were under different circumstances. I wish that we were sitting here saying that, man, we are seeing a drastically different picture from a positive note. But as long as we need to have these conversations, we'll keep having them. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, take care. It's 3:42, everyone. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be right back. All right, everyone, it's time for our final conversation for the day here on Chicago Live. And, we were speaking of matters of the heart from a physical perspective, from a health standpoint just moments ago before the break. We're going to switch things over to matters of the heart when it comes to a very emotional perspective here. At the beginning of the week, we were telling everyone about the story of this local couple that spent a year planning this beautiful wedding, a destination wedding that I think there were about 150 people that were supposed to fly over to Mexico for their nuptials. And then the week of, turmoil breaks out. A cartel leader is killed, and things are getting burned, and flights aren't going in that route, and they had to plan or make alternative plans on the fly. And that's where the Alston steps in. The Alston is a fairly new steakhouse in our area that's now going to be helping the couple to switch gears. So Savannah Jimenez, who is the event manager at the Alston, is joining me now as they lead the rearrangement of plans for the couple's nuptials at their venue. Thanks so much for your time.
Yes, thank you for having me. Hi.
Absolutely. I've visited your location. I think you all are a beautiful place for them to be, for them and their guests. You know, obviously, though, this is sudden for them. And I said from the outset, the very emotional time for them. How did you all come into connection with this couple?
100%. So yeah, we did. We heard their story on Monday, and I think the entire team's heart just went out to the couple. And our owners, Nick and Tony Kuda, reached out to them and offered our beautiful venue here on Friday. We had a fully booked Friday, and we looked at the couple situation, and this was something that we were more than willing to accommodate to. So they gave me a call on Monday, and I've been working with the family ever since. And we've had a wonderful time planning this, and we're just honored to be a part of it.
Oh my goodness, that's such a good natured, pull for you all. And tell me a little bit about how you do work this out in such short notice.
Of course. So yes, I got the call on Monday and I started shooting emails and making calls that evening. And since then, we've been taking it in blocks. So I've been meeting with the couple every day this week. I just got done with them about an hour ago. So I was lucky to get some more final details, but starting with the basis of the menu and then building from there. A lot of other vendors in the city have come together and we're really a tight-knit community. So we're making this happen.
I love this. And I do frequently say that I think there are so many types of communities within Chicago that when push comes to shove, really band together to do fantastic things. And for sure, this couple is going to love you all for the rest of their lives, them and probably parents, grandparents, whoever else can be there for this. So maybe without giving all of their secrets away, what are some of the other vendors that came on board that you made contact with and said, oh yeah, sure, I can help out too?
Yes, well, they've had a multitude of vendors they're doing a 3-day celebration in the city. So really everyone has come together, but just coming off, we have Luminati's donating late night bites. We have a couple different bakeries donating sweets, and we as well have worked to provide what we can here at the Alston. We're giving them the best service and the best planning that we can. And it's been a wonderful experience. We have florals being donated, and the hospitality industry here is really a tight-knit family, and we are consistently showing up for people in times of need. And we're just very grateful that we get to showcase our beautiful space for them this weekend.
And showcase at such a wonderful time for you all too, because as I said, you're a fairly new space. Tell us a little bit about the Alston.
Of course, yes. We're located here in the One Chicago building. We've been open since June of last year. We are led by Chef Jenner Tomasca. We are a French steakhouse offering a multitude of different event menus, and our main dining room menu, I will say, is wonderful. So we have been open for about a year, and we're excited. We think that this is a great opportunity to just kind of showcase the Alston, especially in weddings. It's truly a beautiful space. We just won a Bonche Award about a month ago for restaurant design with our architect Hattie Leitner. So we're just excited to welcome everyone in with open arms and showcase what a unique space this is.
Mm-hmm. It is a very unique space. And what do you think it says about, or what do you want it to say? What do you want it to say about your restaurant, about the restaurant group, that you would go through all of this trouble to help this couple in their time of need?
For sure. I think, pulling off a seamless event on such short notice is exactly what we want to do best. And we want to strive to make everyone's life moments, whether they're big, like a full buyout, or something small, like an intimate dinner. We put the same amount of attention into all of them. And we do it with our hearts. I mean, at the end of the day, we all are so passionate about this industry and passionate about our clients. And we're just happy to be part of this.
You told me that you all were fully booked. And so you all had to go through the process of letting people know, like, hey, we've kind of got this situation. What has that been like? How have people responded?
Yeah, of course. I think it's just something to say about the city of Chicago. When someone in our community needs help, we're here to stand together. And when we're explaining the story, everyone's more so excited about this experience and really just happy for the couple that their families are able to fly in and we're able to make this happen for them.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about their headspace. I mean, obviously their heads have to be spinning at all of this. You take so much time for a moment like this, and for this couple, a year of saving up, planning, letting all the family members know, them making plans for it all to come down to this 1 week. So what has their mentality been like through this?
I think, they have done a wonderful job adapting, because a Chicago wedding venue compared to having a full wedding in Mexico is definitely a change of scenery, but they have been open and excited, and I have been honored to work with them. Weddings are personally one of my favorite events to plan, and I have had a great time kind of holding their hand through this process. And we've been in contact. I've been spending most of my days with them. I would say we're going to be best friends by the end of this experience, but they have done truthfully a wonderful job of just staying positive and moving with the punches. And, we just want to make it as comfortable and seamless as we can.
Yeah, and again, I know you can't give away all their secrets, but what are some of the things that you've tried to do to make this tough situation for them feel extra special in the end?
Of course, I think, end-to-end planning on our end, we are taking care of all of that, the strategic piece of it. I know they had a wedding planner out there, so I've been able to step in and kind of take that over, and I've been extremely honored to do so. And then just making sure everything's intentional, staying in line with their florals. We have, if you can see, this beautiful ceiling that can be completely redone, so we're putting a custom decal up there for them. And then we have a couple other little odds and ends of customizable experiences that we're offering, that we do offer for our other events as well. So we're always excited to incorporate those into any event that we plan here at the Alston.
And have you all had a lot of events there over the last year? I mean, I know that you all are packed with reservations in terms of people coming in to eat, because I've seen it myself, but have you had a lot of events there in large scale, small scale?
Yes, we are truthfully a wonderful, unique space for events. We have our main dining room, but then we also do have a full all-weather terrace that we are able to utilize, especially for the wedding this week that views over Holy Name. So we are very excited to incorporate that into the wedding, and it is a one-of-a-kind event space. And we just hope that everyone after this will see kind of the variety of experiences we can offer.
Yeah, Holy Name is right across the street from you all, so that is perfect. Everybody can just walk over and have a good time. And is it still going to be Friday? Because if it is, we just heard from our chief meteorologist, and this might be the reason why the weather is turning around in their favor.
Yes, definitely. We saw the forecast today and we said, it's not Mexico, but I don't think you can name a prettier Friday in February in Chicago.
Yeah. I'm super happy for them. And I'm grateful, as I'm sure they are, that you all have stepped up so wonderfully to help them out in their time of need. Thank you so much for joining me here on the show to talk a little bit about the Alston and you all meeting the moment for this beautiful couple. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Everybody, it's about 3:54. Give us 2 minutes and then we'll be back to close out the show. right, everyone. It's 3:57 right now. Kind of want to update you on a couple of things before I turn you over to the 4 o'clock news. And there will be much more on both of these when you see first at 4. At the top of our broadcast, we were looking at a situation, a major developing situation in Los Angeles with the federal government, the FBI, raiding the home and also the headquarters for the superintendent of schools there in Los Angeles, which is the second largest school district in the country. A little bit more information here, just finding out about this particular situation. We do know that even though the federal government hasn't released, the documents so far, we do know that the superintendent has been an outspoken defender of undocumented students, recently ramped up protections for undocumented students in that district, and that also the U.S. Department of Justice recently sought to join a private lawsuit challenging the Los Angeles School District's decades-old desegregation policy. So there is a rift there that seems to be widening today. So I'm sure they will be following up on that, as well as a major verdict, $5.7 million jury award this afternoon for the family of a family that says that there was a wrongful raid at their home. So this is, again, a $5.7 million jury award for this particular family, the Tate family. They're going to be holding a press conference. That's going to be happening in the 4 o'clock hour. So you can be sure that our team is going to take that live just as soon as it begins to hear from the family and their attorneys as they begin to give some more details about this 8-year quest for justice in their situation after having agents run into their home, police run into their home and hold them at gunpoint. There will be much more information coming up next at 4.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Daycare employees